Hello and welcome back, everybody, to this episode of Terminal Vocation. I'm your host, Deacon Mark.
And I'm Erin.
And we're excited that you're back for this conversation with us. Today we've got kind of a fun topic. We're going to combine our This Just In with our regular topic because we're going to take something that's kind of out there in the summer cultural zeitgeist and just talk about how to listen when your significant other is telling you who they are. Right, when they're waving that red flag, are you paying attention?
You should be.
You should be. You should be. But first of all, let's talk about our week a little bit. So I know we've had kids leaving and heading out to mission, and we are, as of yesterday, we're recording this on a Thursday, as of yesterday, it's just the two of us.
And the dog.
Just the three of us.
Yep. Yeah, empty nesters for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
And we're really all broken up about it, except that we can not worry about cooking for everybody.
I was going to say, as much as I miss them being here,
right?
Like, it is nice to just be on an easier schedule and less like there's one car for you and there's one car for me.
It's funny because we're kidding and we miss them,
Mm-hmm.
but I was telling someone today, but when I don't have to worry about other people, like who was working today and who's going to be here for dinner and am I cooking for 2, 3, 4,
right,
7? It's just there is a simplicity to it, and they should call us and text us often and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, that would be good. I like that. I like the weekly calls for sure.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
So that's I guess sort of the biggest news around here. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the other thing on my side is OCIA kicked off this week.
Yes.
Our OCIA program kicked off with about 30 people. We've got a big group, which is
great.
Really awesome. Really exciting. We had a good first meeting. What else is going on here?
Well, this was our first week of school.
Oh, yeah.
And these 6th graders we have are readers. Love it.
Okay.
We had an orientation. All of our English classes come through. And I looked around after the first group left and I was like, I got to replenish all the displays. It was a great problem to have. Like, they just cleared us out. Books, audiobooks, graphic novels, regular novels. They read everything. They asked for book suggestions. They had opinions. It was awesome.
Now, how much do you track? Because I think the kids that are rising 6th graders, or not rising anymore, but 6th graders this year, so they would have been in kindergarten during COVID.
Yes.
So we're not quite to the point where you're seeing kids who had no school impact from COVID, but it's shrinking in terms of how impactful it was. Do you see a difference from that?
It's hard to ascribe it to that.
Yeah.
But there is definitely, they're definitely readers. They seem to be a very kind class. They seem like nice kids, if that, I'm sure there's exceptions, right? But it's hard to attribute that to COVID. But if you think about it, we're also every year getting farther away from COVID. So It is, you're right, it happened maybe at a less impactful time, or at least somehow the reading stayed intact. I don't know.
Something maybe.
Maybe they, learned to read a little bit later. So maybe they had enough of a foundation.
Right.
But
we're just home that year with parent, at a formative enough age that parents were reading. Who knows?
Who knows?
But
But it's great. I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there was somebody that we were talking to who was a teacher in middle school, and she was like, just talking about how every single year for the last 6 years, it's been different because the kids that they were getting in were at a different age when COVID happened, and so just manifested itself differently. So
it's true.
Interesting to see that making its way through. Well, let's dive in here. So our This Just In topic summer, we got to talk about the biggest blockbuster single of the summer, Ella Langley's He's Choosin Texas.
I had no idea. I knew it was a popular song, but looking at some of the numbers you're going to go over here in a minute, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
And I don't, so trying to find stats on exactly how big of a hit this is, when I think it's still, even within the last couple of weeks, been at number 1 recently.
Amazing.
So the number that I had, and I think it might actually be higher than this, but it has spent 18 weeks at number one. It's the longest running number one hit on the Billboard Hot 100 by a female country artist ever.
Amazing.
So bye-bye Taylor Swift. We're in our Langley era.
Yeah, and Dolly Parton too. Like I actually, if you had asked me trivia-wise,
that's an issue.
I would have said, "Oh, it's got to be Dolly Parton." So good for her.
I might have thought of like an 80s, like a Reba McEntire or Trisha Yearwood, or
maybe.
Or Shania had such a but also I think this is saying that this is a Billboard Hot 100, so it's a crossover thing too. So this isn't just that they were. This isn't just that she's been number one on the country charts.
Hot
She's
100.
Been number one
You're
overall.
right.
Yeah, so it's definitely like we were listening to it earlier, and you're like, this is old country, like the lap steel and all that, right?
It is. I like it because a good country song doesn't have a lot of like sound mixing and things like that, and then it also tells a story. And I mean, that's my favorite part of country music, right? It's the poetry aspect of it that I love. Yeah.
Well, and so this song is definitely telling a story, right? And I think that's kind of where we're gonna dive into it, because it's telling the story of a woman, and she's fallen in love with a guy, and he's still in love with Texas. Or he's in love with somebody who's still in Texas.
Fair. Yes.
Or a little of both.
Yep.
I think there's some of each. And so the main character even laments, like, one of the first lines in the first verse, should have known better than to take him back to Abilene. So she's sort of, as he's leaving her, or as this sort of breakup is happening, she's like, I saw this. He was telling me who he was. And this is a phrase that you often use, like, when somebody tells you who they are, you should listen to them.
Yeah, because they know.
Right.
Yeah, her mistake was driving back to Texas. But of course, are you just going to avoid the state of Texas for the rest of your life as a married couple? Right? So there's obviously some pull, female or state, that's pulling him back there that she knew.
And that's kind of interesting, because you could maybe see something on the horizon as, okay, is this a red flag or is it not? Right? And sometimes the only way to really know that is to almost put yourself in harm's way a little bit with seeing how that person responds. Sounds clinical. See how they respond to stimuli. But to kind of, see, are they going to react badly, or well to that situation?
Well, and it's one of the things I think is important is to go through the seasons once with someone just to see what's going on. You should go back to their hometown. You should, find out if, I don't know, their mother has pictures of their high school girlfriend plastered all over the house, or, what does that look like? And you don't want surprises, right? You want to know this stuff ahead of time. So maybe she was really smart to take him back to Abilene.
Yeah.
See what she knew. She knew something was going on.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we both talked about, like, the song is just fun to listen to, right?
Absolutely, it doesn't have to be analyzed, but we like that.
But it is. So I'm just kind of reading through a couple of the lyrics, because the very first verse, and one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, she's like, I put him right back into her arms. I wasn't a match for that kind of spark. And I think the only exception I kind of take to that, right, is it's a little bit self-effacing on her part. Like, this is his stuff, right? This isn't your fault.
This isn't your fault.
Right? It's not that you're not I mean, maybe you are, but not in the way, and I feel like she means it, right? Like, she's kind of like judging herself for it, as opposed to just saying, there's some things we can't compete with. There's some things that just kind of get built into a person that they can't let go of.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because there was a guy that I dated in Los Angeles, and his ex-girlfriend, I had never met her, was very present in our relationship the whole time. Like, I just knew so much about her, and I knew he didn't want to necessarily get back together with her, but it was like he was still hung up on the breakup. Like, he wasn't over the breakup. And we went to some party that his parents had, and we're standing in a group with people, and he's not introducing me to anybody, nor is his sister, who we got along very well, but I'm sort of at a loss standing with these people. So what do? The eternal extrovert. I reach over and I say, hi, I'm so-and-so. And the parents that are staying there say their name, and I'm like, oh, that's his ex-girlfriend's parents. And everybody went like kind of 4 shades of white, but it was like, well, don't put me in that situation. Right. How was I to know that? And I remember him saying to me, of all the people, that's who you introduce yourself to. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to stand there. So again.
Of all the people, you walked me up and made me stand right next to them?
Right. And was I smart enough to say that at that point? No, I dated him for months later, And like in hindsight, I was just young and naive, and I just kind of believed what he said. But it was like, no, that was stupid. Why would you invite me to this event and not at least point them out to me so I could either avoid them? But why, we've all moved on, right? We're good. Or we're not, which then was a key. If everybody's this uncomfortable, then maybe I need to be somewhere else.
Yeah. That's, we've all had previous relationships where I think we see some things. I had some exes where I realized, the person I dated before we met, I dated for probably much longer than I should have. Kind of just holding on and realizing, this probably isn't going to change. This probably isn't going to change. Mm-hmm. Why am I sticking around and putting myself through this, right? And that was, a lot of things that were, hers to deal with, and no necessarily fault of hers, right? But
sure,
that was who she was going to be, and it wasn't who I wanted to be.
Just differences, and that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Now this guy is kind of Cad-like.
The guy in the song. We're talking about.
Yeah. So just going as we kind of go down, right? And if you've seen the video, this is a little bit more plain, I think. But they go to this bar in the video, and I assume that's the story she's telling, and run into one of his old flames, and he starts dancing with her. Mm-hmm. And the woman telling the story here is all of a sudden there's something different about him. He's got this smile on his face. He's two-stepping. He's going out. She's realizing he's a different person here. Yeah. And I'm not part of that equation.
Right. And it's interesting if you watch the full-length video, there's a little clip of Ella and this guy, her boyfriend, in the car, and they're pulling up to this bar in Abilene, and he says, hey, my friends are going to get a drink. Can we stop here? Just one drink. Sure. And she says, do you ever miss being in Abilene? And he's like, well, then I wouldn't have met you, But you can kind of tell there's just something about it, something's not right. And then it all unravels once they step in the bar.
Right.
Also, he doesn't really introduce her to her friends. Speaking of my previous story.
No. She is kind of on an island there.
She's kind of staying there awkwardly. And the guys kind of say, oh, you've been hanging out with this, this jerk, or, teasing him.
Yeah, they're just kind of guys being guys. But then there is that woman in the bathroom who's like, oh, you got a lot of nerve bringing him around here, and Texas has a way of reclaiming her own,
Yeah, there's a little meeting in the ladies' room, this lady follows her in, and yeah. So there's a lot of foreshadowing. Telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah, within the first couple seconds
it's going to go awry.
I know what's going to happen here, right? So she really, wanted something that he wasn't gonna provide, right? So let's talk a little bit more about red flags in relationships, though, right? Because what do you see as kind of some things that are red flags to you when you and what I'm thinking here is things that just are so core to who a person is. There's not to use the lingo, right? Not the little icks, but what are the things that are sort of core to who a person is that's a problem to you?
Well, I think one of them I noticed about myself when I was in Los Angeles, and most of my family was on the East Coast, and I just thought, this isn't, I don't want to be on the West Coast anymore. I don't want to stay in Los Angeles. This just isn't my home, right? And so realizing that the odds of me meeting someone in LA who wanted to move somewhere along the East Coast were slim to none, right? Why would I pull somebody out of a place that they were probably happy in? Unless there was some weird God thing and I happened to meet the only person in LA who wanted to move to Northern Virginia, right? But that did not happen. And so I started realizing I need to make plans to get out of here. Like I've been here 4 years, it's time to go. But I think that longing for a place, it sounds kind of silly maybe to people that maybe it doesn't matter to some people, but to me it mattered and I needed to be somewhere else. So interestingly, I kind of identify with the guy in the song a little bit. I chose different actions, but getting to the place that you want to live in, changing your life. If you're unhappy where you are, where do you need to be? And so I think people who are longing for something, I really want to live in Abilene. I really want a different job. I really want, I really want my last relationship to have ended differently. And, these type of things. Kind of that longing, I guess, I'm going to define that as you want something that didn't happen and you're not moving on versus you're setting some goals and you're like, I plan to go get a master's in library science because I'm not really happy in my job. I want to do this. That's not a longing. That's a goal. That's a desire that I'm setting out and accomplishing. Like you're not necessarily going to meet a person who is 100% perfect and done with their life at 24 or whatever, right? But when somebody's sort of stuck somewhere else.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the one to get to the East Coast, and it made me think of actually another country song from a couple of summers ago. Was it Morgan Wallen? I Can't Love You More Than My Hometown.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. He's, saying kind of that same thing. And, people do get tied into geography. I think for some people, a lot of times, and I think this might have been true for you to some degree, is it was more about who was there.
That's true.
It was about family, and that's where family was. It wasn't necessarily that it was Virginia, but it was, hey, within a couple hours drive of my cousins and my dad and my.
You're right. Yeah.
And I think that's more normal or understandable for a lot of people, unless they've got season tickets to this or that team, and I have to be in DC because I got Commanders tickets or I got Nats tickets or something, but. Generally it's probably about who's there.
Yeah.
More so, or jobs. People kind of come to this area because they're federal workers and there's certain opportunities.
I feel like some people, like from living in Seattle or going to Colorado, some people are attracted to the activities, the things you can do there. So I think there's many. I wouldn't say it's just job or people related, but right you could be attracted to an area or a lifestyle. Maybe is the way to say it. So. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, the other sort of mired in your past kind of thing that I see is people that get locked into kind of a party culture maybe that started in high school, college, that can't give up the bar hopping, the partying, and nothing wrong with having a good time. I'm not saying that, but, there is a constant seeking something more than what you already have in some of those that can sometimes be a concern too, right?
You see people lamenting like, their high school days were the best years of their life. And it is good to have special things and sentimental things or your college or whatever. But again, when you're longing for something, you're not where your feet are, it's kind of that same red flag. I think the other way I see that, I have a dating story for a lot of these, but a guy I dated in college, I went back home at Christmas, drove over to where he lived and went to like a Christmas party that different families had. And he spent the whole time talking to his buddies and again, not really introducing me. This was a theme. Not really introducing me. And I was I knew one person there. So I ended up talking to her most of the night. And again, that was a clue to me. And after we broke up, we actually broke up fairly amicably and we're friends. But he said, you were right to break up with me. I was not ready to be in a relationship. I wanted to hang out with my guy friends. Like I wasn't there yet. And he said, and I just couldn't say that. Finally I was just like, okay, I really don't need to be here, So hung up in, it wasn't a party culture for him, but like you said, the glory days, hung up in a party culture when your life now has changed and you have 2 kids and a job in the morning, right?
And there's a a difference I think should be apparent between, someone who's hung up in being with their boys all the time and someone who is still in touch and has a guys' night.
Yeah, they're friends. Yes.
It's good to see that somebody maintains those relationships and those friendships. It's another thing, when it becomes their everything, right? And they're unwilling to. Was it that movie Fever Pitch? So this was a movie about Jimmy Fallon played a Boston Red Sox fan who had season tickets for his entire life, falls in love with Drew Barrymore, but his summer is dedicated to the Red Sox.
Yes.
And, baseball is one of those, it's an everyday kind of sport, right? It's not just Sundays. And so it was them kind of navigating the fact that this was an all-consuming kind of thing, and how do they strike that balance and coming off of something enough to give part of you to this other person.
Yeah. I think you sort of have this other love, right, of baseball that is toggling for first place with the love of this person you're meeting.
Yeah.
The other way we see that a lot, I think, is in flirtations of, when someone's a flirtatious person and they're now starting to date somebody, but they can't stop flirting with other people.
Because they like the attention.
Sure, right.
Yeah, and it could be innocent. I'll use air quotes for that a little bit.
Sure.
Because it's not really innocent. Like it might not be having anything happen, but it's still a problem.
Yeah, you're seeking attention, or that person is seeking attention elsewhere than in the relationship for comfort. Beyond the normal friendship attention, right? Yeah. So I think that's another common problem that is you have to be aware of.
Right. Right. So last thing, when we talk about these red flags, you and I were just kind of chatting about them earlier. So, well, it's hard to get overly bogged down in, well, okay, give me a list of all the red flags or all the things that I should look for, because there's a subjectivity to this. In that, like, so I like watching football on Sundays. I gotta give that up. I watch football a lot on Sundays, but we also have some Sundays where it's like, hey, that's not in the cards this week.
Sure.
But if you were to notice that somebody is, a huge football fan and they're in their easy chair from 1 o'clock through midnight every Sunday, and you hate football, and you're worried about being the football widow, then that's a real problem. But if you're also a rabid football fan, then suddenly that's a tremendous thing that you have together.
Absolutely.
So that's where that can kind of be a little bit of a subjective, like, well, maybe it's not a red flag if it's somewhere where we mesh.
Yeah, I think, you can make up rules, and not make up, but you can have these rules about dating people, but ultimately they're kind of more guidelines, because then you meet someone and you have to decide, can I live with that? And maybe for you love to sit there and crochet while he watches football, and that's great. Maybe you love football and you're in it just like he is. Perfect. But yeah, for other people, it's just got to be about what works for you.
Yeah.
Or times in our lives. I mean, you like to golf, and that just didn't happen for a while when our kids were little. It was just such a big commitment.
Yeah. Well, what last thoughts on Ella Langley and Choosin Texas?
The one line that this is just more from a poetic thing. I don't know about dating per se, but she says a cowboy always leaves. And that line reminded me of the song Cheyenne, or I Can Still Make Cheyenne by George Strait. And, he's basically talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and she kind of breaks up with him. He's like, okay, great, gotta go. I can still make the next rodeo, and kind of leaves her dangling, right? And so it is kind of that idea of just, there are some people that, that woman was always going to be competing against the rodeo, because he loved her, but it seemed like he loved the rodeo just a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are cowboys in our lives, that are not cowboy. Yeah, but there's just people who have decided that something else is a higher good within their life than their significant other, that they're always going to be, well, I'm going to choose this. This is going to win, right?
Yeah, so, I'm always second fiddle to insert whatever thing.
Yeah, it's a wistful line. there's more than, there is that callback. I think you're right. I can't stop singing it. Like, I love the song. So
it is a great song.
It is a great song. I think I love when these summer hits come along. People talk sometimes about there being like a big summer hit every year, but I don't remember every year having something quite like this. The last one that I can think of, and so this would be interesting if you listeners, if you correct me if I'm wrong, or if you can think of things that you remember as big summer hits. The last one I remember was probably Bubbly by Colby Calais, that I think kind of kind of took over everything. That it was, no, it wasn't that. That one might have been one. Call Me Maybe.
Oh my gosh, I just heard that in the grocery store the other day, and I was trying not to dance. Yeah,
Call Me Maybe. That was a big summer hit that kind of just
hit.
Took over the world for a little while.
We had a bunch of like Morgan Wallen stuff that came through a couple years ago when our son came home from net. But I don't know that was as widespread as it was just for us.
Yeah.
Because we really liked a lot of his stuff. But yeah, I think you're right. Kind of the song that gets out in the world that almost everybody's singing.
Everybody's talking about.
Yeah. It does feel like it's been a while.
Yeah.
So we'll link this song if you haven't heard it, and the extended video is really cute.
Yeah.
As well. I think definitely worth watching, and it kind of harkens back to those good old-fashioned country songs of the, I don't know, and maybe initially the 60s and then that 90s kind of surge.
Some of those stories.
Yeah, those authentic songs.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, good. Well, look, before we wrap up, we wanted to share one other thing. And that's a conference that's coming up in November. It's called Together in Holiness. This is going to be at the John Paul II Shrine in Washington, D.C. And it's going to be November 14th. We're going to link to this. This is the Together in Holiness is a group that they go to various dioceses, and they inspire spouses to grow together in holiness. They empower parents to form their children in the Catholic faith. It's going to be 1 day. The registration for couples is extremely affordable, $54. It includes 3 talks. So there's a talk on the Holy Eucharist in the domestic church. Then there's Mass and a marriage blessing, along with lunch. Another talk on the liturgical and spiritual life of the domestic church.
And that's
by Soren Johnson, the co-founder of Trinity House.
We talked about that in an earlier episode, Trinity House.
Yeah, and then Sacrificial Love is Sanctifying Love. And that's by Steve and Becky Green. They're actually the co-host of another podcast, The Catholic Conversation. So just a lot of great content. A great way, I think, to kind of continue growing in your marriage with each other. Like I was just talking to someone earlier about, we have a lot of things that the church puts out there for people who are doing marriage prep. And we need to kind of keep those things that are continual formation for us after we're married, to say, what's supporting us? What's that next thing? And this is the sort of thing that does just that. So we'll put a link to the information and the registration up on the website or on the podcast, but to the website for Together in Holiness. And we hope to see everybody there.
Yeah, we are going to be there.
We're going to be there. So come, tell us that you listen, because that will make us happy, and it'll make you happy too. So listen, just to wrap up, if you have other ideas or topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, we'd love to hear from you. Send them to terminalvocation@gmail.com. You've been listening to Terminal Vocation, a VoFam production. I'm Deacon Mark, along with my wife and co-host Erin. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week.
Bye-bye.